My name is David. I'm the CEO of a company called 0x447, and this video is going to show you how to start working with AWS serverless technologies and how to work with CloudFormation files by creating a project from scratch. Where the idea is basically I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. So this way you can see how to work with AWS in general, and how you should think how to structure the project, what type of services to use, how to use them, what type of features do they have. And overall, yeah, it's basically me working on a small side project. And the idea here is that we're going to have a S3 bucket, which is going to accept a JSON file. The bucket then is going to trigger a event and will invoke a Lambda function. And this Lambda function is going to load the S3 file, the file that is in S3, load it up, see what's inside of this JSON file, and create an email and send the email out, right? Using SES, simple email. What? SES. What is this? Simple email service. Okay. And so by doing so, I hope that you're going to learn and get, maybe not learn, but get a better idea of how everything should be done the right way. Because basically what I'm trying to do is creating this project based on the AWS best practices. And so we shall see where we end up at the end of this video. So let me just 1 second get a special link to be able to switch the AWS account that I'm in. Where is development? Development, copy link, paste link. Okay, so this is a, let's make it green. We are switching now in a different AWS account under the same organization. So this is basically switching role. So you can be logged in one account, but then access another one that's inside the main account, right? Hope I make sense. And to do so, yeah, you have to switch role, put the account number, the role name, and name that you want to use to display this thing. And you can do it either by hand, or you can do it by using a URL where you have all the values already in it. And so the website is just going to pull the values from the URL, which is convenient. So you can have multiple accounts and switch them, because this drop down here allows you only to have a history of 5. And after that, if you have, for example, like me, over 15, then it's get a little bit annoying to switch the accounts. So, okido. So what we are going to do now is we are going to work on a Lambda function. And so we have to create a repository, right? To have a Lambda function, so we can put our code in it and start working on it. So we're going to use templates, and we're going to call a product. What we're going to call it? Product. Let's make it, I guess, simple. SMTP Lambda. We're going to have just one Lambda, right? So the project is going to be SMTP. This is where we are going to put our CloudFormation file, and Lambda is just going to be the Lambda that does the magic. Well, the CloudFormation does the magic. Well, everything does the magic. You get the point. So this Lambda, this Lambda is responsible for being invoked by S3, load up the object, and send out an email based paste on the data found in the JSON file. Yay. How do you type this? Being 1E, fine. So we create the repository, and what's going to happen is we're going to use a template that I have created, because I mean every Lambda is exactly the same. So we have all our files. You can title the project, describe the project. These are the basic environment variables that the project needs. How to run the Lambda locally. What is this? This is the wrong URL. Don't mention that. Don't worry about it. I have to actually update the template in this case. And this is a nice description of every single file in the project. So no excuses that you do not know something. I hope so. That described everything. So we are going to go to GitHub Desktop. We are going to clone the repository, search for SMTP. What? The folder. I don't understand. I don't care. No. We have to refresh. Well, since we have a bunch of stuff here, let's copy this, paste this, go back here. This is the refreshing. Super nice. Oh, done. Hey, this is our Lambda. And we clone it here. Dun, dun, dun. Yay. Okido. So Lambda is in place. And so we should have product SMTP somewhere. Lambda. Hey, we have it. Index. Okay, so since we have to describe the Lambda function, right, we can reuse whatever we used in this description, which makes sense, actually. We do this, we do that. Of course, copy and paste doesn't work when you need it to work, because the page switched underneath the cursor. Okay, go back. Nice comments. Yes, nice comments are a key for success. Okie doke. So we have step 1, step 2, and let's see if we can make it run. So if we go inside Docker, this is basically my own Docker environment where I have all my cool stuff. Product SMTP Lambda. So we are inside the Lambda. We do npm install, actually. I think, yeah, we have to do it because we are using the AWS SDK by default, always. Or else would you use, right? npm run locally. Fire. Yay! So we're missing the .environment file, and we have step 1, step 2. Awesome. So we go to the project, we go to the README file, we copy this, we go back to the terminal, paste, fire, and we have our environment file. We go back here and we see, ta-da, we have our environment. Awesome. So we can run it again. Nah, maybe not run this thing again. And run it locally. No warning that the file is missing, which is nice. And so, of course, now we have double times. Okay. How does this work, right? How do we run this locally? So first of all, we have the locally script, which makes sense, I guess. We are then loading all the environment variables that are found in the .environment file into the, well, basically every time this command is run, these environment variables are going to be present in the memory runtime of Node.js in this case. And so then we say that, hey, please Node run this file here, right? And that's what we're doing. So if we go and look at the file, which is called loader, right? So let's open the right file. So this is the file that's being loaded. So we are loading the index file where the main code is going to be. Then we are loading the environment JSON in the context JSON. So this is basically done to mimic how the Lambda function is going to run in AWS itself. So if you know or do not know, a Lambda function will have actually 3 type of variables here. It's going to be event, context, and something else that I do not remember. Meaning I barely never used it. Context, I used it a few times, but it's also a rare occasion that you're going to use it. But basically, context gives you access to all the environmental variables that are running at the moment. No, sorry, you get access to the environment variable that Lambda has access to when you're invoking it. So you might have how much memory it has, how long is it running, how much which version is it running. So basically you get the context, the idea of where you are, right? So you can base in the code say like, oh, you're running Node.js version 8 and I'm expecting 12, and you can make a nice error message that says please update the version, right? But this is rarely used. Normally you use event. This is where you pass data to the Lambda function. And so what we're mimicking here are basically these variables. And so if you go to the folder payloads, you have these JSON files, which are super empty, and you can put whatever you want here to mimic basically the request, the event structure that the Lambda function is going to get. So to do that now, so what next? Yes. So since this Lambda function is going to be triggered by S3, right? We need to find out what type of data is going to be passed from S3 to Lambda. To do so, you can either go to the documentation, Epic documentation of AWS, or an easier way to do this is going to Lambda. Yes, we have our Lambda. Go here, there's nothing here. Very uncool. Is this really? I don't have any, and not even one Lambda. Okay, fine. Let's do it TMP in this case. We don't care about any of this. We just need a Lambda, empty one. We need to get to the examples. And so slow, and yet done. Okay, so now in this UI here at the top, we have a drop down. We can configure test events, Epic, meaning you can put whatever data you want here. And the event variable, which is here, is going to contain this information, right? So actually, let's move this Docker to GitHub here. So we have code, terminal, code, website. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be what you get in the event, right? So we use you can type it by hand, or you can have examples already baked in here, which is nice. We have to be able to scroll this list. There you go. Thank you. And we're going to see, there you go, Amazon S3 put, because we're going to subscribe to put events. And as you can see, there is a lot of stuff. We copy this, everything. We switch to code. We go to the payload event example, paste it, ta-da, and now we are going to behave as if S3 told us to do something. And in the sea of stuff, we are going to care about 2 things: the bucket name and the key. So bucket name is the bucket of the name of the bucket, right? And the object key is the name of the object itself, meaning the file that is in S3 including the full path to it, which is basically the full name of the object, because there's no directories in S3, but long story short, you get the whole thing. Okay. So in this case, let's start coding. Yay. First of all, let's name this function something more meaningful. What are we going to call it? Do we want to do it? Let's see. What's going to be the first step? Aha, yes. Okay, so in this case, we're going to do it this way. So at the top, we are going to just save what we care about. So bucket name, and we care about object key. There you go. Event, yay. And now let's check the path here. What's going on? So records, it's an array. What records? That's me copy and paste stuff, because I do not know how to type, so I need to use technology for this. Now go to S3. We like a little bit of S3, and then we're going to take a little bit of bucket, and then we're going to take a little bit of the name. Okay, now let's sprinkle this with a little bit of event. I mean, we can actually S3. Yeah, so we can copy the whole path here until S3. And bazinga. So instead of bucket, we're going to do object and then key. Object and key. And ta-da. Object key object. Bucket name. Did I type this correctly? I'm not sure. My brain is telling me I did something wrong. Yeah, I had it wrong. Okay. So I cannot see it, but somehow I can feel it. Logic of the human brain. Okay, so we're going to now have to load the object. So load object. Load object. Makes sense. In this step, we are going to load the object which triggered this lambda. So we can see what type of mysteries are hidden in it. Yes, mysteries. By the way, I have dyslexia. English is not my first language, so excuse any errors. I do not care. As long as you get my point, I'm happy. So next up, it's time to actually get some SDK action. So AWS SDK for Node.js. Type, and we get the first thing, API documentation. Thank you very much. Then we go S3. We wait 5 minutes until the whole website loads. Hey, that was fast. And we search for put. No, what are we putting? We're not putting anything. Get object. Click on the click object and scroll down. Do not care about all this stuff. We care about this stuff. And then paste. And then make it pretty. Make it pretty. Format document. Oh Jesus, what happened? Not the whole document. Format selection. Yes, okay. Awesome. Let's do this. This is beta. Range, nope. We want the whole thing. And now we have this ugliness nonsense here. We have to throw this away. Else, no else's. This. By the way, I'm very strict about how I format my code. So there's going to be a lot of making everything nice. Error, because we know we are grown-ups and we know how to type. Error stack, yeah, let's just log the whole thing. Thank you very much. Error return. And actually no, because this is a promise. Return, reject everything. Error is reject. So no more error. Another nice thing to do is to do console log. Well, actually let's do info, because we want to find out information that went wrong. So if we console log the params object, we get to know actually what type of value were passed there. So every time there's a error, you know what did you miss. So prepare the query, and then we are going to execute the query. Execute the query. Yay. Execute big. Hey. So we have this, we have that, load object, error function, data, and now we are doing to console and log. So we have this, and now the last piece that we need is actually to load the SDK, right? Because if we do not load it, there's nothing to do for us. Scroll up, go up, go up, 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 up. Let's make it nice because we're grown-ups again. Let's explain what we're doing. What are we doing here? We are creating the S3 object instance. I don't know. Let's do it more in a more funny way. Bringing S3 to life. There you go. Hey, makes way more sense. I like it. S3 SDK, and we now need to also switch step 1 to load object. And so let's see what happens. I know it's going to fail, but let's make it fail. Well, load object, bucket example. What have I done? I didn't expect this situation. Yes, because we are resolving this promise before it has time to finish. So we have to just move this there, run it again, and now it's going to crash in the right place. Oh, it's taking so long. All right, so if there's no credentials, actually we are going to hang out here forever. For whatever reason, they don't even tell you that, hey, the credentials are missing, which would be nice. By the way, I realized now that I didn't finish container, what was it? Bucket name. Request container. What? Bucket name. David, wake up. Bucket name. Okay. And then we are going to do the key. What was the key? Object key? Object key. Object key. Yes? Yes. Okie doke. So we did this, we did that, and now we need the credentials. And now is the tricky part for me. How do I put the credentials in a way that you cannot see them, right? We need to keep the secret, because otherwise it's no fun. Well, it's fun for you, not fun for me. So we are going to do it. I have an idea. Since I have more than one screen, I can do this, do that. Then I can actually take this thing, put it in a different place, maybe, like so. So you cannot see anything now, right? Perfect. I hope so. And then I'm going to copy the stuff in the environment variable that we actually created before, and I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to close the file. So then I'm going to bring everything back to where it was. There you go. So now when we go and run this thing, what is going to happen? Load object. Haha, access denied. Yay. Okay, well, first of all, bucket name makes no sense. Key, test key, yeah, also makes no sense. Because A, the backend doesn't exist, and B, we're passing the wrong data. So let's clean this place up. Delete this function. We do not care about it. Let's go to SN3. And let's see what do we have here. So, text to speech, what? Web page home. Ah, this is some old stuff. Okay, bucket name. We are going to call this company name like so. So there is no way that this is, I mean, US East, whatever. Create bucket. Okay, we have it, right? So copy the bucket name, go back to the code, and go back to events, right? And now we are going to paste the bucket name in the event object that pretends to be as if the S3 invoked this thing. And we also need an object, right? So we're going to need something. We're going to need since we're sending an email, right? We need, what do we need? We need this, we need this, we need first name. We just need name, right? So name is going to be David. I respect myself, so I'm making it myself big because I'm a big boy. Then we're going to do title. Could be subject, right? Subject as subject, fine. Subject, hello from the other side. And then body. Body is going to be, this is the body from the other side. Okay, so we have we also need an email, right? And then we do email. Come on, we can do it. Okay. No example.com. Does this make sense? Comma, quotes, comma, quotes. Everything is in place, I think, I hope. So we save this as desktop, email, JSON, sun. It's a sun. It's a J and sun. Ooh, colors, nice. Okay, let's go into the mystery bucket. Let's take this file, put it here. Next. Oh, sorry for that. Do not disturb me. I do not want to be disturbed. Okay, so we have the file, right? So now, well, the key is going to be pretty basic because it's literally the name of the file. So stop copying it and just type it, David. Yes, sir. Event key. Email JSON. Nice. So what's going to happen once we run this? Is it going to work? Finger crossed. Dun, dun, dun. Yay, it worked. We have bytes. That's nice. We have this many bytes. Ooh, lots. We have the tag, content type, JSON, metadata, nothing, and the body. Our body, we like buddies. We like to be friends with our buddies. Or warm buddies, depends. So what was the thing? Body, right? Body to string. Yes. So now we should be able to see just the content of the file. And we have the content of the file. Yay. Okido. So now we have to make the email. So we have our message. Okay. And we're going to use to make the email NodeMiler, I think. That's what I want to use. NodeMiler? NodeMiler. Yes. This is what I like. This is a very nice, epic, amazing, astonishing, cool thing. But how do you install this? No? Okay, fine. And PM NodeMiler. So we're going to find it another way. Ta-da! Found it. I love when the documentation is not correct. It's not nice. Send emails from Node.js, easy as cake. I agree 100%. This is an epic piece of project, tool, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to save it. So we always have it with us. One package, blah, blah, blah. And packet saved. Okay, cool. So we have this. How do we use this? I have no clue. No, I have a clue. Come on. I've been using this for a while now. Usage. Once you have a transporter object, you can send email with new. Message configuration? Oh, okay, we're in business. Slowly getting there. Okay. How do you call this thing? How do you load this in memory? How do you do anything with this? Come on. Just give me something to copy and paste. Okay. This is what I want. Okay. A little bit more happier. So go up. Ta-dam. No, this is not accounts. We are not going to change the pointer to the object. Actually, no, this goes there. Ta-da. Because this is just a module that we load. Okay, node and my layer. Connection lost with the keyboard. Very nice. Because I just tapped the wrong key. Keyboard, wake up. Hello? Okay. Message. Okay, why do we want to create the message first? Because basically what we want is we want the raw email. We do not want to send it through this thing because we're going to use SES, and SES have this epic feature that once you have the raw email thing, then you can just pass this object to SES, and SES is going to send the email for you nicely. So we just need to format it accordingly so it is happy. So to do so, we need to create this raw thing, right? I have it already done, but just for you guys, I'm going to figure out this thing once more so you can see how I do stuff. So maybe that's useful to somebody. Create rar email. Yes. We are going to, okay, no. Now that we have our S3 object with all the data, we can use this data to make a raw email. I think it's .mel, this is the format, that we are going to pass to SES, which is SES as it is. So then SES can take care of the rest. Okay. So we remember that we have this object, right? So we are going to save it somewhere so the next promise can use it. Container. How we are going to call this thing? I'm thinking just message, because it's the message. It's going to be a message coming from a website, right? So it's a message, and we are going to already use it as a string, but we are going to also JSON parse it so we can actually programmatically use it. So save, oh boy, save the response, saves the object for now, for the next promise. And then we need also here a comment, check for internal errors. Yes. Okay, so this makes sense now. So we can reference data while we are building this message structure. So message, is it mile? 2 is going to be b. Example, some email that you want to receive this thing. Subject is subject. That's nice. Text, oh fine. Didn't expect to have text, but body, small body, yes. I don't even remember what. Name, email, subject, body. Body. Name, what? The name, actually we could then use the name when you're constructing this to field. For now, let's skip it. We can make it nicer later. So yeah, we are not doing the HTML thing because I mean it's useless. We want to just get the raw message from the text box input field on the website. So I mean, there's not going to be any HTML or anything like that, right? So let's see if we can figure out this thing. iCal event, security option, do not care. Send email. I do not want to send anything. I want to create I want to just create transport. And I'm not sure that's what I want. Single connection. Yeah, I don't want to connect to anything. Authentication, where's your connection? Yeah. Other transport. Send mail transport. yes, transport. What? Is this something new? Oh, but this is not fun because they're taking away all the fun. Load from path. What? I'm not sure I want to do this. I'd like to just get the raw email. Stream transport, maybe this one. No. Or maybe. No, because this is again sending something. Oh, I love documentations when they're not when they're not clear. Okay, no, the miler generate email. I want to just generate the email. I don't want to do anything else. Simple. No. Come on, really? Send email with Node.js. I'm not sure. We shall see. What is this? This is just the website. This is signing something that I do not care about. Node miler. Blah 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 blah. Send email new. Yeah, because it's using Gmail, setting up, don't want to set up, sending plugin, don't care about plugins. Ah, boy. I really want to just create the file. Okay, I'm going to cheat for a moment here because I don't want to spend days and hours for things that I do not care about. So let me go to one secret place. Plugin, VPN, certificate, read email. No, redirect, new. Uh-oh. I don't have it anymore. Dun. Let me in this case go somewhere else and check what we have here. Yeah, so this is again one of those situations where the problem is not with the with your knowledge or anything. The problem is with the documentation that is super unclear about what's going on. And so I remember that it took me a long while to figure out how to just get the email, how to generate the email. And I thought that this time is going to be easier because I'm going to know what I'm looking for. But as you can see, not even this is helping me. Oh boy. No, that's not what I want. Let's go somewhere else. Oh, I'm going to find this. Because the point is, I want to use as much of the AWS SDK as possible to just show how it works. Because otherwise, if we hide everything behind magic, then there's nothing that you can learn. That's not fun. I think I'm close. I think I am close. Subject message. I think I found it. I have found it. Oh, okay. I remember now. Because this is, yeah, we have to use something that is basically node miler, but is just a subset of the whole module. And so this is what we actually have to do. Where's the code? The code is here. So go up. Instead of doing node miler, we want to mile composer because we want to compose the email, I guess. Okido. And then we have to do this. Let me just copy this. Let's actually copy it here. Let's just copy the email, the object, sorry. Replace it. Ta-da. Oops, too much. Delete this thing out. And then we have to build the email. And that's how we build it. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so fun times with the documentation that doesn't tell you because it wants to hide everything from you. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not good. Prepare the email. And then we are going to create the raw email. Okay. So here we are going to save the raw email, right? But for now, we are also going to log it so we can actually see what's going on. Console. Whoopsie. log. So also we have to update the reference name to the function. What will get out of my face? Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So if we run this, what have I done? This is not running it locally, right? This is running it locally. Load object. JSON is not a function. It's not a function. Are you sure? JSON is not a function. What? Yeah, parse it is. Yeah, it's not a function. Parse. Somehow my brain just forgot completely everything. Is it parse, right? JSON stringify, JSON stringify. What? No, come on. What am I? Stringify and then parse. No, stringify. What's the opposite of stringify? Parse. Parse. Okay. Oh boy. The human language. Okay, we are parsing the JSON. Are we? Yes, we are. Okay, so we get again another buffer, which is nice. So if we convert the buffer to the string, what do we get? Dun, 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 dun. We have the raw email. Yay. So this is basically, you can save this as a .eml file and literally open this in any email client that you have, because this is literally the content of a regular email. So we have that it's text, plain text, sorry, that meaning there is no attachments. From, to, subject, message ID, you have to generate something. Content, what's the encoding, date, MIME version, and the message itself. Cool. So now, if we have all of these goodies, we can actually tell now SES, hey, take this buffer and do something with it, right? Which is fun. So now we are going to, we can actually take this and take that and send email. Whoops. Now that we have our email generated, we can pass it to SES to be sent. Right? Send email. So we have to extend our chain by the one chain, one loop in the chain. So we have this. So the next thing is go to the website, go to the documentation, search for SES. We open SES and now we have to send something, right? So search, send, sending, no. Send. Hey, send raw email. We want to do it raw. So this is what we have to do. All of this. Now let's do copy this and replace this with that. Ta-da, so we don't have to rewrite everything. And then we have to just take all of this and replace it here. Let's make it pretty. Whoa. What happened? One more time. I think it's freaking out because of this. Let's see if that fixes the problem. Yes. Okay. So, destination. We don't care. From ARN. I don't think we care. Return path ARN. Don't care. Okay, we don't care about any of this. We want to just send the data. Send the email, please do not complain, ask me anything. This is the buffer, so I hope this is it. Because if I go and peek into my previous project, I see that I'm correct. So now the question is like, David, oh, you're awesome because you know what you're doing. Well, yeah, because it took me, I don't know, a few hours to figure it out a while back, right? So right now I'm trying to just show you how to go about where to find information, how to structure a project in a way that's easy to understand, easy to follow. A way also to create a Lambda function that's going to be reliable for years to come, of course, until AWS doesn't update the version of the runtime, and then your Lambda stops working. But if they do not do that, then you're good to go, and you should have a Lambda that just works. And there's nothing better when the Lambda just works. Now, we have to also add, bring SES to life. And to do that, we need this. And by the way, as you can see in S3 and SES, you don't have to provide the region, because these services are regionless. I mean, they have a region, but they're stuck with that one region. So there is no, I mean, S3 has regions, right? But since everything is in one place, how to explain this? You have different regions, but you access them through one single endpoint, I guess. And so that's irrelevant where they are, where other services like, for example, DynamoDB is going to scream if there's no region here, because then it's going to try to access the API in the wrong region. It's going to tell you, hey, your database doesn't exist. What are you trying to do? But in these cases, since these services are not coupled strictly to a region, there is no need to provide it here. And again, bring it to life, in this case, SES, right? So we have SES, we have that. Now we're going to try to send it. Of course, it's not going to work, but let's see what we have. Run locally. Dun, 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 dun. Load object. So what do we get? Send email. Okay, raw email. Oh, by the way, did you see this? So what have I said? We don't need region for SES? I was wrong. I was so wrong. It's not even funny. So sometimes when I say something, please do not listen to me. Sometimes what I say makes sense. So enjoy figuring out which is which. Region, la région, and we do US East erst 1 -1. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, sometimes you have to figure out what makes sense, what I'm saying, what doesn't. Fun times, human times. Okay, so email address is not verified, blah, 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 blah. First of all, you see here, this is the log that comes when there's an error, right? So we are logging the params, so you know what you've passed, and then you know what went wrong, right? So super convenient to figure out things, and if you add it to every error check, then if something happens in the future, you don't have to go back, rerun the code, try to reproduce the error, because all the information is going to, I mean, not maybe all the information, but some of the information is going to be there, right? So now the part that is the most annoying thing is this: email address is not verified. The following identity failed to check in region, blah, for this email, for that email. So by default, SES is pretty locked down, right? So if we now go to the website, go to SES, email server. Why am I in Ohio? Why am I not in Virginia? Virginia is the best. Come on. If we go to domains, there is nothing here. And if we have emails, there is a bunch of emails. So actually we're going to change the content of the JSON file, because these emails are already registered, right? So by default, SES does not allow you to send emails to addresses that are not here in this list, are not confirmed. So you have to actually add an email here, and then you're going to receive a message from AWS with a link that you have to click. So you are verified, because otherwise you can start spamming everybody, right? And of course, this doesn't mean that this is forever. For every single email out there, you have to do this. Once you verify your domain, and let's say you have example.com and you verified it with the DNS entry, then you're going to be allowed to send emails from that domain forever and ever, right? But until you do that, you can still develop and test everything by just verifying single emails, right? So knowing this, we can go to SN3. Do I have the JSON file here still? Yes, I do. Ah, awesome. So what was those emails? I don't remember anymore. Where am I now? I want to be here. Okay. So let's, my God. Copy. Email. And copy. Coffee. Okay. And then we go to code. Then we're going to code this into this. Ah, so such coding. So much coding. Then we're going to run it again and see what happens. Run locally. Load object. Send email. Null example. Yes, David, because you have to update the object in S3. Ah, I see. So if you change it locally, it doesn't change here automatically? No, it doesn't. Ah, that's how it works. Yes. Okay. Replace it with the new file. Okay. Go back. I again pushed the wrong button on the keyboard. My God. What just happened? Run locally. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Oh, David, you also have to save the file. Ah, that's how it works. Yeah, no, technology is not easy. For sure. So, replace again. Click, 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 click. Upload. Faster. Come on. Go. Yes, 100%. Of what? I don't know. But let's go. And success! We have our email sent. Was it that hard? No, it wasn't. Well, maybe a little bit. So yeah, so that's how we did it. What you get back is an ID of basically the. This is proof that the email was sent. Sorry, excuse me. And if so that's why it's this ID is also worth saving, because basically if something goes wrong, you can ask AWS to figure out what went wrong with the message by providing this details, the request ID and the message ID, so they can check in their backend and see what actually happened. So it's always good to save this information in a database. And most importantly, once you receive this message, it means the message 99.99% of the time went out without any problems. So yeah, so we have our Lambda function done. Lambda function is operational 100%, seems to be working nice. So let's do a summary from the top. So we have loading modules. Basic, bringing all the objects to life, all the services, AWS services to life. The credentials are being taken from the .env file, which from memory. which are basically the SDK expects these two what? Keys, variables, I don't know. And once you do that, they're going to read those and run. Once you run this in a Lambda function on AWS, I mean, you're going to run in the Lambda function on AWS, the credentials are going to be taken from the role that the Lambda has, right? So the cool thing about the AWS SDK is it checks in different places to see if it has credentials. So it's going to check for the environment variables. Are they there? No. Okay. Do I have a role attached to myself? No, because I run locally, then crash, right? Yes, I'm in AWS. Okay, let me check the role. Can I access SES and access S3? Yes, you can. Awesome. Let me do stuff for you, right? Or you could even pass the credentials in the object here, which is the constructor, loosely, we can call it that way, where you can pass those credentials here, hard-coded. Do not do that, ever. Ever. But that's another option. So we do that. Then we take only the values that we care from the message that S3 send us. So by the way, as you can remember, the event that we're going to get is going to have an array, right? And you might say, David, you just hard-coded an index of an array. What happens if you have two things in the array, right? You will never have those. This is basically something that AWS done for future reference in the case that they can send you more objects in one go. And I think the only case that that's going to happen is if you use AWS Firehose and you want to transform the data before it's going to be saved in S3. I might be mistaken, but I think that's the only case that that's going to happen. When you are dealing with invoking, Lambda being invoked by S3, you're going to only have one object, because the invocation happens per object. It doesn't happen if you send two files, you're going to have two invocations. You're not going to have one invocation with two records in it, right? Whereas I think with Firehose, since Firehose caches the data, then they can add multiple items in the array, and thus you have to actually loop through it. Do not quote me on this, but I think I'm 80% sure. So, by the way, what is this container? Container is nothing that, as you can see, it's an object. It's more about a map-ish kind of a thing, where we keep all our data, so we can pass it through the chain here, and everything stays here. So if you want to look for something, you know where to look for it. So it's just a way to organize information. Well, it's a way to organize data in memory, I guess you can say it that way. And actually, let's make it nicer here and be more organized, because then we start the chain, and we're going to have our message. So here, the next thing should be message. What is this message? It's this thing. It's an object. So we storing here the S3 object. Okay, so we know what we have. So the load object basically takes the bucket, the key, fires the get object query to AWS, and we get what do we get? And we get the data back. Ta-da! Then we create, based on the data, we create the email, right? So we use, in this case, this node mailer to build a raw email, which we can then use in the next promise. But before we do that, we have to save this thing. Oh, this is going to be a buffer. Well, in this case, I don't know. It's going to be a string. Strings are buffers, I guess. Store the raw email that we generate. Okay. And then what do we have? Then we have nothing else, because I mean, in this case, we are not going to save the IDs because we don't care that much. But if you were to do a more serious Lambda function, the next promise could be a put action in DynamoDB to save this thing, or you could even save it back to S3 to a different different bucket that says, you know, SES logs or SES email sent or whatever you want. So in this case, we have the project is nicely organized. Everything is described. Everything has a comment basically, and everything seems to be working. Cool. So now we're going to commit, which is basically short for commit. And there you go. Payloads, events. What do we have? We have the events. We added those. That's nice. We have the index, all the mystical code. Package log. It's package log. And then package, we have AWS and NodeMiler, which makes sense. Did I do something wrong? No. Let's call it working code. And let's push it to mass and stir. Is it a mass on stairs or stairs on mass? Anyway, let's do that. Doing that. And we did that. Yay! So we have pushed the code to GitHub. And so now everybody can see it. If we refresh Git and Hub. Working code. Yes. If you click here, we have all our mystical code. Dun, dun, dun. Cool. So the next thing is going to create a CloudFormation file. So we can take this Lambda function, deploy it on AWS, while also telling AWS all the services and all the configuration that we need for a working setup that's going to do what we need. See you soon. So we just finished working on the Lambda function. So now it is time to make a CloudFormation file. Dun, dun, dun. If you never did one, don't worry, it sounds as scary as it is, sadly. It's not an easy thing to work with, but what I want to show you here is at least how to start thinking about it, so the point is, I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. So hopefully that will help you wrap your head around this idea of how to work with CloudFormation files, what they exactly are, or how to debug them, and all of that. So basically, when it comes to a CloudFormation repository, I always have the naming convention where I have the name of the company, product, the name of the product, and that's it. And that's the home of the project itself. So the CloudFormation repository is basically the home page of the project, right? So when I create a new repository, first of all, we select the template CloudFormation because we don't want to do everything from scratch every single time. And then this is going to be the home project in this case. So this stack will deploy. No. This cloud. No. CloudFormation file will deploy a stack which sends emails based on notifications. Jesus. Based on notifications sent by S3 to a Lambda function. So this CloudFormation file deploys a stack which sends emails based on notifications sent by S3 to a Lambda functions. Triggered by the put action by the object put action in S3. Yes, I hope it makes sense. Let's hope. Hope is the only thing that we have, right? Yay. So generating the repository, repository, I don't know, something. Okie doke. So we have our basic template, which we're going to edit later on, but that's it. So now we're going to clone this. Clone it? Yes, we are cloning it. So we go here, we go here, we go there. We refresh here, crunchy crunch. T break time. Spinny spin. So much spin. Oh, finish spinning. Okay. So we have our project, the right directory, Q, cloney clone. And we have it, right? So this way, when we name this stuff this way, it's grouped automatically for us when we list any folder files, which is convenient. Okay, meaning we can go back to code. Whoa, hey, no, too many windows. We can then go to product, Lambda, and tan. Time to write the description, which we just posted here. So we can replace this with that. So that's one thing. And now this is a Cloudformation file-ish. So this repository is created using a framework that I've built, which is called npm grapes. Grapes, yes, it's not what I'm looking for. Well, for sure this is not what I've created. 0x4447 grapes. Yes. Fine. Let's maybe not go to issues, but whatever. So yeah, so this is the framework. This is how you install it, and this is how you use it. So grapes, source, and the source of where this thing needs to run, right? And the idea is to create, to break down the massive Cloudformation file into smaller, more manageable pieces. And by doing so, if you go back 0x product lambda, SMTP, you do grapes, run it there where we are, we get a Cloudformation file. So, and this is a basic template, right? And already there is a plenty stuff. Lots of things. So even too many things already, and we didn't even start, right? Because this stack has a Lambda function, a pipeline, and code build. And this is my default template that I always start with, because normally 90% of the time I work with Lambdas. And so that's how I start. And so this is the big file. And actually, let's switch to Finder and let's find stuff. GitHub, SMTP, resource. So this is how it's broken down, right? So you go to inside the resource and you have, for example, your Lambda. You have maybe a Lambda name, and inside you have code pipeline and the Lambda itself. Let me reorganize this thing, because as always, God forbid, remembering the settings. It's just 2020 only. And so this way you can break, for example, lower dash index is the main file where you're going to have your Lambda. Then you have your role, which is on a separate file, and then you have your policy, which is also in a separate file. And here you could have 5 other policies that are attached to this role, which is referenced into this file. And then when you run grapes, it basically takes all these small JSON files and put them together into one big massive file. This way, it's way more easy to work with this stuff, and it's way easier to figure out if there's some problems. Because if you go to Lambda, you show the Lambda, this is what you're just working on, right? Whereas if you were to use this main CloudFormation file and find the Lambda, so it's here, it's the same exact thing, right? But now it's between 377 lines of stuff that you have to scroll up and down, search, nest, unnest, hide, unhide, to make some sense of it, right? And I mean, this is going to be right now pretty straightforward because we have our tiny little Lambda. And we have one Lambda to deploy, which this template is configured to do. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to replace the XXX and XXX with something more meaningful. And we're going to do it by doing this, by doing find, by doing XXX, and by replacing this with, for example, SMTP. Right? Makes sense. So we do replacey. Ta-da! So now all the resources are named correctly. We can do the same thing for the small stuff, which we can do SMTP because we want this thing to be smaller. Replace in 7 places. So we have our Lambda function, which is going to be called SMTP. And if you now go, for example, to role, you're going to see that the role name is now Lambda SMTP, right? And the service, it's also called SMTP, but in the right formatting, which makes it then much more clear to read, understand, and make sense of it, right? And so if you go to the policy references the role, and the role is this one, right? So exactly the same thing, referencing in the right spot. So this way, it's much easier to start with a fresh template. You can quickly replace the stuff that needs to be replaced. I hope this makes sense, right? And then the same goes here. This is something that I actually have to change, but since we are going to use code pipeline to we're using code pipeline to enable auto deployment. For our Lambda, which is in this case, it's only going to work when you own the repository. I will explain this a little bit later how this works, because we're going to have to do some changes to our CloudFormation file, the default template, because the default template is designed if you own the repository. It's not designed to handle if a project is open source and for everybody to deploy. Because, for example, we have to hide the webhook configuration if you are not the owner of the repository, because otherwise it's not going to deploy. Because CloudFormation file will see that, hey, I don't have access. I cannot configure, because when you deploy code pipeline, AWS will update the repository. No, it's going to tell GitHub that the repository is going to tell to GitHub to change the repository, so the repository can send back webhooks to AWS, so AWS knows when to trigger a deployment, right? And if we are going to If we own the repository, that's not a problem. But if you, for example, want to deploy my repository, which you don't have access to, then you cannot set up the webhook on my account. It's not good. And that's why we have to remove this webhook while deploying. And I'll show it how to do it because I already did it in another project. Okay. So, but let's go to basics. So code pipeline, we have to set the owner of the repository and we need to provide the name of the repository, right? So this way code pipeline knows what to where to pull this information, right? Where to pull the new code. So that's done. Then we have code pipeline SMTP role. Okay, this makes sense. So what we are doing here, actually, for example, this this code build is separate. So normally you can do it both two ways. You can either have a code build in each Lambda next to the code pipeline and Lambda itself. So when you deploy, you're going to have multiple code builds for each Lambda, for each thing that you need to build, right? This is fine for small project, but if you are going to create, for example, let's say you have 20 Lambdas or 25 Lambdas, and plus other things, for example, a website that you want to deploy in CloudFront and what have you. You're going to run in a situation where you're going to reach the limit of how many resources can be inside a CloudFormation file, and the max is 200 resources. So, and the resource is basically everything is counted. So every time there is this thing, it's a resource, and so this is one resource. A Lambda is another one. A role is another one. If you have, for example, all your policies broken down in separate files, then they're also counted, right? So for example, if each Lambda has 5 policies and you have 20 of these Lambdas, then you have 20 times 5, it's a lot, right? Then you have, for each Lambda, you have a separate code build, a separate code pipeline, policies for that, roles for that. So, you know, after a while, you might end up having too many resources. And one way to lower the amount of resources is, for example, to reuse code build, because code build can be reused. Code build doesn't care. Code build is not tied to anything. It's basically a Linux server. We are telling it, hey, we want this image, which then using a build spec.yaml file, we can tell how the code build should be configured every time a Lambda is being deployed. And this is separate. Every time you make a code build, AWS will create basically a Docker container with your own specific configuration. That's why you can have 5 different Lambdas being updated at the same time. And each of them we're going to say like, hey, this is my configuration. I have specified what I need in the code build spec, and AWS will spin up 5 different code builds with 5 different configurations, right? So this way we can preserve, we can lower the count of the resources in CloudFormation file. And that's the only reason, because there is no limit. No, I mean, for sure there is a limit. But it's not a big issue having, 20 code builds for each Lambda. You don't pay for the amount of configuration waiting for you on AWS. You only pay for how many times the code build runs by the hour. And so if you can have 20 code builds, pay $0 if you don't using them. You're not using them. So that's it. And that's why, for example, this policy here needs to be attached to code pipeline. So if you were to have another Lambda, you'd have to add the role of this code pipeline also here, because code pipeline needs to be able to access the artifact bucket. It needs to be able to start the build, right? And this policy can be shared, can be given to as many code pipelines as code pipelines as you need. By the way, let's rename the Lambda function here. SMTP. Oh, and regarding the Grapes framework, the naming of these files is irrelevant. You can name them, structure them however you want. There is there is literally, you can do whatever you want. The only thing that needs to be exactly the same is this high level folders, which needs to be, they have a very specific naming convention, and you cannot change these. But then everything inside here, you can do whatever you want. So you can organize your project as needed. Okay, so we have, do we have everything now? Parameters, we have the artifacts, we have the GitHub token, and we have the stage. Lambda has 12, that's the minimum amount of RAM. This is, for example, a default line of code that just works, so Lambda can deploy without code, basically, because the code is going to be added used through code build, because code build is going to kick in and update the Lambda that we are building. So right now the Lambda is going to be deployed with a dummy piece of code that just does something to make Lambda happy, so it's not going to tell like, hey, this code is not valid or whatever. So cool. So I hope this kind of makes sense. So if we go here, we run grapes again after our changes. So now we have again new copy of the main CloudFormation file put together. And how does this work? So you go to, where are we? Development. Okido. So CloudFormation. Yes, that's what we are doing, right? CloudFormation. By the way, we are not yet configuring, as always, some weird stuff here. We are not yet configuring S3 because the important thing when it comes to CloudFormation is you want to do small steps, because the only way to debug your CloudFormation file is to go through this process that we're going through right now. So stack name SMTP. The artifact bucket, let's see if we have one. Artifacts, yes, we do. So David, where are you getting this artifact bucket? Well, you can create it your own, right? It's just a bucket where code pipeline is going to save an artifact, which is basically a zip file with all the source code of your project. And this is a temporary place where this data is going to live, because code pipeline pulls your code from GitHub. It's going to be zipped. It's going to be placed in S3. Then code build is going to get this information that, hey, A, start your build, and B, please look for this zip file in this bucket. Then code build will suck the file, unzip it, build it, and put it wherever it needs to go, right? And that's the only way that code pipeline and code build can communicate with each other. They do that through S3 as the middleman, right? And a fun thing that I've created is this tiny project called AWS Artifacts. And I recommend deploying this because I have enabled a lifetime policy. Can I select? Thank you very much. A lifetime policy which will delete all the artifacts after 24 hours, right? So the S3 bucket will get the setting that it tells if a file is older than, please delete it automatically, right? So that's a cool thing, because without code, any code, you don't have to create a Lambda that runs every hour that checks if the object is old enough. If it is, then delete it. You just tell AWS, do it for me. So this is not precise science. Sometimes after 3 days they're going to be deleted. Sometimes it's just on the money. But that's the cool thing, because sometimes I've run into projects in the beginning that after 6 months or a year, those buckets had 2 gigabytes of zipped source code that was just laying there for no reason. So I decided, like, hey, let's do a tiny little project here. As you can see, very big project. It's just one bucket. So even if you check the Cloudformation file here, there's basically nothing. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole file. That's it, nothing more. And what we have here is like the data, it cannot be public. And there is this rule that says after 1 day, delete the files, and that's it. So you don't pay for unnecessary things. So yeah, you can either do this bucket manually or deploy my little microscopic stack and do that. Now, secrets again. By the way, is this secret? Yes. Okay, cool. So I typed the password the first time and it worked. Amazing. Okay. I'm clicking on everything, but not on the stuff that I want. Okay, so the token is the token that you can create when you go to GitHub, settings, developer setting, personal access tokens. Ta-da! So this is where you can generate this type of token. You have to put the password. Okay, fine. Kiddo. And we're in like Flynn. What you're going to need is this and this. And then you name it something cool. And then you create a token. And AWS will be able to create webhooks for you. Awesome, right? And if you Google basically AWS GitHub token, what do you get? Configuring GitHub authentication. Blah 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 blah. No blah blah. That's all. Okay, whatever. But yeah, Google this, search for this, and you're going to find all that it's needed to configure this thing. Yeah. So we have this, we have that. So stage is important because in code pipeline, stage. Branch. We are specifying which branch should code pipeline use, right? And so, yeah, I mean, the default branches always are master and development. So that's why I have master and development. And this is also useful, for example, if you're deploying on a development environment, you can use this stage variable to do some if statements inside Cloudformation. So for example, you can say if development, then deploy the smallest EC2 instance. But if in production, deploy a medium size instance, right? So you can do funny, cool tricks like that. So I always recommend having the stage environment, the stage parameter there, because it can be used in different places inside the file. So here is just basically click, next. And then we wait for the first error, because for sure there is some. Because with CloudFormation files, there's always something that you missed, a typo that you made. Hey now, please do not work. Yo, stop it. No way. No way. No way. No way. Is it still going? What? Okay, I have to paint on my wall the next line because I think this is the third time in my life I deployed a CloudFormation file that just worked. Normally, 99.99% of the time you're going to deploy and you're going to get errors. Always. I mean, always, like almost always, especially in the beginning. There's no way that you're going to deploy anything that just works. And what you have to do, because actually I wanted to show some errors. I didn't expect that this thing is going to work. Yeah. Okay, so let's say that we have a runtime of 12, right? Let's do 15 because which does not exist, right? And this error should happen while deploying and not while uploading the file. So again, we have to recreate the CloudFormation file. Let's actually do an update since this is already working. Amazing. Let's do open, let's do next. In the future, next, scroll down. So cool thing about CloudFormation is if you do an update, it's going to tell you what's going to be changed. So since we changed the Lambda function resource, you're going to have here this information that, hey, this is going to be modified. There you can also, there's going to be add and delete. And this means that basically the Lambda is not going to be deleted and recreated, is going to be updated, which is different. But this is also important to pay attention to, because sometimes you're going to have this variable that's going to say true, that it's going to replace something. So you might lose some data that you care about, right? So if let's say do a DynamoDB update and it might say that it's going to delete the database and recreate it from scratch, and then you lose all your data. So you don't want that. So you need to be very careful. And what I always do is always wait for that diff to show up to make sure that what's I think is going to happen, that's what's going to happen, right? So pay attention to that. Okay, yay, we have an error. This is what we want. So what? Zip file can only be used when the runtime is set to either 8, 10, 12, Python. Okay, this is the problem. What does this even mean? A zip file can only be used when the runtime is. What zip file? We are not doing anything. Did you see any zip file in the CloudFormation file? Nothing. So first of all, you have to always scroll. Sometimes you have a massive CloudFormation file which almost has 200 services. You'll have to scroll for a while there, and you have to find the first instance of an error, right? Because that's where you want to go to look for a message. And then you're going to read the message and you'll want to open your window and just jump out. Because normally, like 90% of the time, they do not make any sense, right? So if you're not familiar with CloudFormation file, you made a file that has, 5 lambdas, and in one, you did a typo. Instead of doing 12, you did, for example, 13, right? And you get this message. Good luck realizing where the problem is, right? And so how do you debug this? How do you find out what this issue is about, right? Well, it says Lambda. And you go, okay, Lambda, then I have 5 Lambdas. Let's go through all the Lambdas. But then you might say, but if all the Lambdas has all these options, and finding, you know, the typo from 12 to 13, it's going to be pretty hard, right? I mean, our minds are not that good. And so, yeah, you have to just be patient, accept that you did an error. Is very rare for CloudFormation to be doing something wrong. It might happen, but it's a very, very rare thing. So you have to just go into this mindset, okay, I did something wrong. I need to find out what's happening, right? And if you, for example, have another important thing, the logical ID, Lambda SMTP, right, is this ID. If we search for it, yeah, without spaces maybe, this is our logical ID. So if you're going to have more than one Lambda function and the other Lambda's function is, for example, name Bob, right, it's going to show you here that Lambda Bob had an issue, right? So that helps you focus on the real problem, right? So I just said before that if you have, you know, more than 5 Lambda, like more than one Lambda, it's going to be hard to find out which is which. Kind of not true. Sorry for that. Check the logical ID and you can at least focus on that one resource. And that's why also it's important to use this grapes framework, because then it's easy to just focus on this, you know, 21 lines instead of enjoy this thing, right? Find out and focus on this. Okay, let me work on this. There is some distraction. There is, you know, too much nonsense, too much noise. So that's that. Another thing, if you, for example, the Lambdas normally are going to be very similar in their configuration. So another thing that you can do is compare two files, right? So you can, for example, I don't know which editor do you use, but in this one, you can select two files and compare selection. And it's going to show you the differences, right, between two files. So this is pretty useful. That if you have, for example, you see that, you know, this line it's 13 instead of 12, then it's going to be easy to find that problem, right? Other problems that happens are normally around the structure of those objects, the naming that you might did a typo here. It's going to say like option not found for this resource. That's a pretty common one. If you reference something that doesn't exist, that's another thing. You might use, for example, characters that are not allowed. For example, like these ones. It's going to tell you like no. Yeah, so a few errors sometimes are useful, but like this one, they makes no sense. So you have to fight your way through it, and you need to be patient and basically always check the documentation, which is not great again. But we are going to go to the documentation in a moment when we are going to work with S3, right? Okay. So that's the general idea how to work with CloudFormation files, and be patient, take the blame, and see if you can figure it out. So we have this, so let's actually rebuild this thing with the fixed ID here, and we are going to now add S3, SSS3. So resource, new folder, SN3. Then we're going to do new file, and we're going to make, for example, index.json. And what we're going to do is, because I'm lazy, well, actually no. This, how did we name this? Lambda SMTP. Let's name this Lambda, no, S3 SMTP, right? Okay. Now, documentation time. AWS S3 CloudFormation. What do we get? Ta-da! Buckets. And of course the Japanese version of the documentation. So, this is daunting, right? There is a lot of stuff and you go, oh my god, what's happening, right? Crazy times. So normally what I do this, copy, I know how S3 works, but if I'm playing with a new resource that I never played with CloudFormation, I just copy everything. And actually let's do a split screen. Let's do this, that, and I'm going to replace this. Ta-da. Okay, let's do that. Close this. Yeah, that's sort of better. And when you scroll down, so by the way, first they have the JSON version, and then we have the YAML version. And after that, we have basically an explanation of each key in the subject. And for the most part, this description are kinda okay. Like I would say, like 50% they're okay, 50% they make no sense, because you'll find that some description or someone did them like in 5 seconds. They didn't even think through them. Which is annoying, and yeah, so you then have to figure it out, talk with the AWS tech support, ask them what they think about this description. They go, yes sir, we also think this makes no sense, let us figure it out, right? So this is basically what you have to deal with when it comes to CloudFormation file. So that's, be aware of that. And now, you see this required? It says no. Awesome. If not required, then out. We don't need this, right? Access control, do we need it? No, it's not mandatory. Don't care. Analytics configuration. No idea what that is. Out. Bucket encryption. Nope. Bucket name. No. What? You're stupid. Important. If you specify name, you can perform updates. Blah blah blah. If you don't specify a name, ask CloudFormation. What? Seriously? Wow! I had no idea, guys, that this is even a thing. But no, like bucket name, it's pretty mandatory. You need the bucket name. Trust me on that one. You don't want some random generated nonsense. Course configuration. Do we need it? No. Out. Do we need inventory configuration? Neither. Lifecycle configuration, no. Login configuration, no. Metrics, no. Notification, no. We are going to need the notifications for sure. Object lock enable, no. Public access, no. Nothing. Basically, what are we doing? But seriously, inventory, metrics, notification configuration, that's what we need. Bazinga. Okie doke. Bucket name. Let's see here. For now, let's have this thing fixed. Then we are going to play with variables and dynamic values and all of that. SMTP. Development. Yes. Okay, let's go to notifications. That's what we need. We need to now notifications. So, configuration that defines how Amazon S3 handles bucket notifications. Means nothing, right? Perfect. Get used to it. If you create a target resource and related permission in the same template, you might have circular dependencies. If you create a target resource and related permission in this, okay, whatever. Yeah, I already have in my brain a circular dependencies. Dependency. So basically what this is trying to say is, if you circular dependencies are when you're referencing a resource in another one, and in this one you're referencing the one that you were referencing. And so what happens is, basically there's an infinite loop and CloudFormation won't deploy the stack. So anytime you have an error that says this, that's what's happening. So that's fun. But, so how do I know that notification configuration is what we need? Because the description is configuration that define how Amazon S3 handles bucket notifications. Like, whatever, dude. It's basically either you Google and you find what other people did, or you get in touch with AWS tech support and say like, hey guys, I need to invoke a Lambda function from S3. How can I do this? And they're going to tell you basically. Or there might be blog posts by AWS about it. But okay, so Lambda configuration, right? So we want this one. Let's do it the same way. Copy this, paste it here, remove everything. And now we have an array. And inside this magical array, we need to put more stuff. So again, describes the AWS Lambda function to invoke and the event for which to invoke them. Oh, makes kind of sense, right? So we need to define a Lambda function and we need to define what type of event needs to trigger this Lambda function. Good explanation there. AWS, one win for you. So we copy this example, paste it, and now let's click on event, which brings us down to the explanation. The Amazon S3 bucket event for which to invoke the Lambda function. For more information, see in the Amazon Simple Storage Service Guide. Required? Yes. Filter? No. Function? Yes. So filter is out. We don't care about the filter. We don't want no filters. Okay, so let's go start digging deep here. Wait a second, let's close this stuff. Okay. Configuring Amazon S3 event notification. Blah, 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 blah. So much blah. Blah, blah. Let's see if I can. This is painful, I know. Okay, in theory, you should read the whole thing to get an idea of how the push notification works in S3, like the, not push notification, the notification system itself. But the thing that this thing can do is put, post, copy, and delete. Okay? So, another way to figure out what this thing can do is sometimes play with the dashboard itself, with the console itself. If you go to properties, you scroll down and go to events, notification, right? Fun times. You click here, you add an event, which is a notification configuration. You do put, so you name this, test, put prefix, prefix and suffix are the filter that we just deleted. Okay, another thing to know. The names in the console do not have to match the names in the CloudFormation files. Get used to it. Okay, said that. We have the three options that we had before, like we're doing Lambda configuration, all right? So we're selecting Lambda, and now we can select put the Lambda ARN in here, and what's going to happen is this event, not notification, God forbid, use the same name. Every time there's going to something be put into the bucket, it's going to trigger this function, right? So knowing that, let's put some things together. So events. What if, in this case, maybe we do this? Who knows? Who knows? No clue, but maybe. And then function. Let's go to function. Function. The Amazon resource name ARN of the Lambda function that Amazon S3 invokes when specifying event, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now we have to reference get the ARN from the function that we actually are deploying here. So this is our function, and excuse me, each resource that we define in a CloudFormation file has variables, has outputs when you create them. So if we go and oh, we can do this. Let's do this. AWS CloudFormation Lambda function, nice. And now how do I, okay, so when you have the documentation of the Lambda, on the right side you have syntax, properties, and return values. This is important. And this you're going to have a list. So every resource has normally the same, the list has the reference. Then you might have attributes, and which then have more stuff in them. And so this is actually pretty cool. When you pass the logical ID, which is this guy here, of this resource to the intrinsic reference function, ref returns the resource name. For more information about using ref function, use cref. Okay, so if we are going to use this name, we're going to get this value, which is cool. But then you can also use the function get attributes. The fn get instruct function returns a value for a specified attribute of this type. The following are the available attributes and sample return values. Okay, for more information about blah blah blah, use this. Okay, cool. And this is the only option that the Lambda function has. It's ARN. That's the thing that we're looking for. So that's cool. So if we go to function, get that. This is the JSON example, right? So we copy this guy. We go to S3. We paste it. And of course, I need to learn how to use the keyboard. Ta-da! This is our function that the CloudFormation has. So we go back to Lambda, copy the name of the resource, paste it here. So it's going to use this function. The function is going to read the name of the resource, and then we need to pass the attribute, which is ARN. I don't know how to say this. Because if we go here, ARN, what? Okay, whatever. And this way you're going to get the full ARN URL or URI that AWS uses, which is this thing, right? I mean, in this case, this is the role, but this is basically the format. It's like ARN, AWS. In this case, instead of YAM is going to be Lambda. There's going to be the region, the account number, etc., etc. And so this is how you can get to know what type of return values a resource has. Cool, we have that. So in theory, we have this. We have the bucket. We are telling the bucket, yo, I want every time there's a put event, call this Lambda function. Thank you very much. Now, let's try to build it and see what's going to explode, because I think something is going to go wrong. Let's actually go now full screen. Do we want to go full screen? No. I can do this, right? Yay. So we have our thing. We go to update. We update a template file. We choose file. We select the file again. You go next. You go next. Next. Scroll down if the mouse allows it to. Check this box and be patient. What do we get? Add bucket. Makes sense, right? Update bucket. Dun, dun, dun. By the way, hide this. Creating in progress. Uh-oh. The event is not supported for notifications. Oh, okay. The event is not supported. So the event here, the name put, it's not bueno. Doesn't like it. maybe we have to put this whole thing. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't say. Support event types. Amazon S3 can publish events of the following types. You specify these event types in the notification configuration. But since this is about the notification and not CloudFormation, it's always a guessing game. Did they change something in CloudFormation or not, right? So we do this, we do that, we go back to CloudFormation, we refresh, we update, we go and replace the CloudFormation file, and rinse and repeat. Basically, this is how you debug a CloudFormation file. And we are right now just playing with one resource called S3, which has literally two options that we are using. And this is the fun times that you have to do to figure out what's wrong and what works and how to fix it. And you have to go back and forth. And what now? Unable to validate the following destination configuration. Invalid argument. What? Unable to validate the following destination configuration. That's it, guys. Yeah, that's the error message. Mystery box, right? But now, instead of wasting the next 3 hours to figure out what's going on, let's cheat a little bit. This is another project that I've done a while back. Structured the same exact way, using grapes, so we can drill down into the individual thing that we care about, and we can go and find out what needs to actually be put here in place. I don't know what I'm even saying anymore. So event is event S3 object create put. Okay. That's what they've done. Did. Okay. Function. Arn. Filter, we don't care. Lambda configurations, an array, an object. Right, if we do this, it's a little bit more clear what we are dealing with. Is this an object? It is. Inside an array, it is. And what was the error again? Unable to validate. What are we validating? The following destination configuration. By the way, I call this S2 instead of S3. Okay, so we have to make it simpler, right? So let's do this. Let's just create the bucket. See what happens. Let's see if we at least can create the bucket. Let's go up. Let's update. Let's replace. Let's update. Next. And next. We know that this thing is going to update, make a bucket, so no need to wait for that. See what happens. Resource creation initiated. Come on, how long can you make a bucket? Hey, we have the bucket. Let's not get super excited about this because we still cannot set up the right. So we have the bucket, right? Cool. We put the notification configuration. Let's see what happens now. Refresh, replace, update, choose, select, click, next, 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 next. Update. Okay, so unable to validate the following destination. It's unhappy with the notification configuration. Ah, boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is a bit crazy because that's what exactly I have here. So this is correct, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. Okay, awesome. Bucket name, lifetime policy, don't care. That's it. Cannot validate. Oh, I think I have a suspicion. Let's see here. Let's see what I've done in this project because I think I know what's going on. Policy. Not here. Let's go to repos. That's what I name. Okay, whatever. Weird name. Inbound Lambda function. Permissions. Lambda permission. Depends on properties. Action. Lambda invoke function. Function name. Principal S3. So there is an option that. So well, of course. I'm not sure if this is because the error is so unclear that my suspicion is this, that Cloudformation is trying to create a notification subscription, but it doesn't, but S3 does not have access to the Lambda function. And that's why it's failing, because basically when it comes to AWS, everything is locked down. You have to create policies and roles to tell which resource can do what, right, on your behalf. So we need to be specific with this stuff. So let's see if this fixes the problem, because I hope that the error that we would get would be a little bit more logical, because I knew that this is something that is going to be missing. So let's see if this is the case. Permission. Let's call it something a little bit more meaningful. Okay, Lambda function depends on, we don't care about this thing at this moment. Function name is this. So you see that here in this case, we're just referencing the Lambda, because here we do not need the ARN, we just need the function name itself. Which is cool. So we save this, we go here, we recreate this. Update, replace, update. Let's see. Next, next, next. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to policies and permissions, you can put policies and permission in different places depending. So you can add the permission to tell AWS, hey, this Lambda in this case can be invoked or accessed by S3. That's what we've done here. or you could add the policy to the bucket and say that, hey, AWS, this bucket has access to this Lambda function. You can do it in different, in different ways. I always choose to put the permission at the destination. I think that makes a little bit more sense. But then you could argue that isn't it better to put at the source because this source is going to interact with this other service? I don't know. Everybody might do it differently. Hey, we've done it. That was the issue. I love this. This was the perfect error, the perfect problem that I wanted to experience with you to show you what is going on. Let's go back again. Unable to validate the following destination configuration. Exactly. What? Makes no sense. It's not saying no access. It didn't say like this resource cannot access this Lambda. Didn't say access denied. Didn't say nothing. It's just unable to validate. Validate what? What are you validating? There's nothing to validate. It's just create the notification. Don't validate anything. But no. And so, yeah, that was the missing problem because CloudFormation said, I cannot connect these two because this thing cannot talk with this other thing. I don't know what to do. And so this was the problem. And so how do you go about figuring out these problems? Again, Google, 3 years of experience, and talking with AWS tech support, which are very useful. But then you might say, David, I cannot pay $100 a month to be able to have a chat with someone from time to time, right? In theory, then AWS provides a forum, which is in theory free. But then again, you get a free service, which is sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's just very basic and superficial. So yeah, this is one of those things that if you want to learn it, you have to spend a ton of time creating CloudFormation files every single day for the rest of your life. This is basically what I do. I live in CloudFormation. This page here is basically where I log in every single day. I barely use all this stuff, the console here. I use the console as a reference. So for example, to go to the bucket and see what options do I have, because, using for example, this thing, so for example, if you have, this is the bucket, right? All the options for the bucket. This is all the stuff that you can do with it. And it's not clear what all this stuff is, right? So it's easier sometimes to just go into a bucket and see like, oh, I have versioning, I have server access logging, what is that? Static hosting, default encryption, tags, request pay, events, right? Then I can go like, oh, let me see if I can find this event. Then you go here, you search for event, you don't find it because it's notification, and then you have to go and notification, event, well, events are notifications, kind of, maybe click here, read it. Is this what I'm looking for? I don't know. And that's what you do. Because fun times, because, yeah, the documentation on AWS is not super great. It's misleading, and this video is here to show you this problem so you know what to expect, because a lot of people go into this mode like, oh, everything is going to be clear, everything is going to be explained, because if you look at the AWS marketing materials, everything is just one click and it just works. Yeah, 3 years later, you're still fighting the system. And so yeah, so this is what I want to show you. It's like how to approach this, working with AWS, working with CloudFormation files, working with serverless, and hopefully this slowly is going to make sense for you. But let's go to this bucket and go to events. And as we can see, we have our awful name, some random numbers. We have our put event and we have our Lambda function. Let's click edit. And this is our Lambda, SMTP Lambda. Yay! And now it should in theory work. By the way, what is this awful name thing? I don't like it. Can I name this something else? Notification again. New. Notification Lambda. Where was this? How do you get there? Bucket. Notification configuration. No. Notification configuration. There you go. Oh, Lambda. Yeah, exactly. Lambda event filter function. No naming. Okay. So random numbers it is. Okay. So in theory, our Lambda should work, right? Because it is deployed. So to check this, let's actually now switch to full screen mode again. Let's go to Lambda itself, Lambda, and now actually let's go to code pipeline. Let's go to code pipeline. Lambda SMTP failed. Oh no. So you can see that we have 221 bytes. That's not enough code for this thing to work. So let's debug this. Okay, makes sense. So the GitHub event situation here worked. So code pipeline was able to pull data from GitHub, which is nice. And then if we go to S3 and we go to the artifact bucket, we are going to see the Lambda SMTP. Yay! So we go inside, we see the source code. This should be code. There's a bug in a code pipeline which shortens the name. This is known for at least 2 years now. Still no fix, because why? And we have our zip file. And this zip file is going to contain the source code from GitHub, which then can be read by code build. So let's go to code build and see the details. And we click to execution details. And then we see that crunchy crunch, so much coding, so much stuff happening. And now it says what? Function not found. Well, because there is no function called function name, right? Makes sense. So let's go and fix this. So if we go here and we go to SMTP, that's our homepage, right? So Lambda build spec, and this is coming from the template, right? So that's why there's just function name. And we know that our function name is actually SMTP. We save it. Let me just think here. Is there something interesting that I can say here? Well, yes-ish. So we are zipping basically the source code that code build is going to have available for us in the working directory. So we're zipping everything, and then we're saying, hey Lambda, update the code for this function with this file. And we're just pointing to the local file that we just zipped. And basically this is telling code build what needs to be done. And in this case, there isn't much to it, because other projects can have, adding environment variables, moving stuff around, of course, building, installing, for example, like in this case, npm packages, doing other things, connecting to a database. You can do here anything. This is just a Linux box, and these are regular CLI commands that you can run inside any Linux box. So you can do whatever you want with this thing. So we updated that. So go to here. Okay, cool. So we install we didn't push this. I should push this. So we changed the function name to SMTP. SMTP, correct. And fixes. And pushing to master. Push. Now go back to website. website are back. Go to pipe and line, and we see that is in progress already. So it pick up the change. When blue, it means that it's building, doing something. Once that is done, it's going to switch to the next step, or as they call it, transition. Fancy. So okay, cool. So now this worked. This is building, so we can actually check the details of the build. And there's no logs yet. Okay, fine. Let's wait. We can even click here, and we should start seeing something. Because right now, yeah, it's provisioning code build, and then we have all different steps. We have phase details, so it's submitted, queued, provisioning, downloading source code, so it's downloading from the S3 bucket, right? And then installing, and basically you see how like install, pre-build, build, post-build, everything. That's referencing this stuff here, install, post-build, and all of that. And so there's other steps like pre-build, post-build. They're like so quick because there's nothing there to do, because we don't have any commands. But if you had those commands, then this is going to take a little bit longer. But as we can see, success, build, logs. We can scroll all the logs, and we can see that this time Lambda function SMTP exists, and we were able to push the code successfully. Go to function, 221 bytes, refresh, 6.8 megabytes. Woohoo! Okay, cool. So now if we go to S3 and go here and go SMTP development, we have empty bucket. Empty bucket, no good. And I think I deleted that JSON file that I created before. Very not nice of me. Okay, cool, whatever. We have a backup plan, right? We can go here. We can go here. We can download the file that we uploaded in this bucket. It's in the wrong place. Showing Finder. Move it here. Go back here. Go to S3. Go to SMTP. Empty bucket. Drag and drop. Next. Uploaded. Okay. So now we go to, where do we go? We go to logs. We want to see if something happens. So CloudWatch. Oh boy. CloudWatch. We go and log groups. We filter by AWS Lambda Fire. And now we look for our SMTP Lambda function. Click on it. We have one execution. We click on it. And we have load object, step 2, send email. Thank you very much. Good night. I won. No, seriously, it worked. The email was sent, the Lambda was invoked, and actually we can keep on doing this until the end of time. So we can do this again. And we go to CloudWatch, refresh. Hey, now we have another Lambda, another execution, right? So actually, let's do this. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files. And we are going to do this. Drop. Next. Ding. Refresh. What? Refresh here. Refresh. Ta-da! What happened? We have our error. noticed error. Okay, so this is, I forgot about this one. Because I'm pushing files with a space and the space is converted to a plus, and it's, long story short, is a big mess. So actually I have to do it differently. I need to remove, I do the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is going to keep crashing, right? I mean, it's already in a different, yeah, okay. So this worked because that was 1, but this is crashing again. Okay, so this is the, in this, so what's going to happen is, since we are triggering, where are our files? Hello, okay. Since we are triggering the Lambda from a different service, so we are not invoking it from code, or we are not clicking this test button. The Lambda, when it crashes in this async invocation, meaning something is invoked but doesn't wait for the response from the Lambda, the Lambda is going to retry that execution a few more times automatically for you. In this case, it's going to fail every single time. I mean, that's why I also now deleted the buckets, the files, so it doesn't try to do crazy things. But if we go to the logs, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, they keep on coming. Because yes, it's trying to, it's doing the retry, and this is useful, for example, when you're working with APIs, third-party APIs, and they time out and you get a timeout error. The cool thing is the Lambda is going to retry to rerun the code, and in this case the rerun is going to be actually successful, because if there was a timeout, and the Lambda is retrying between 30 seconds and a few minutes. So you get, you know, without writing code, this resilience built in. But as in this case, since the error is in the naming here, the key here with this plus, which the plus does not exist because it's a space, so you'd have to convert the plus to a space. Then this is going to crash, keep on crashing until I think 3 times. Lambda is going to retry 3 times or 4 times, don't remember. So that's how it works, but let's try to do it in a different way. Now I rename these files in a more meaningful way. That's not going to cause any problems. Upload it. So let's see if some of these logs are going to be O and K. So these are the old ones. Let's see if we get new ones. Oh boy, what happened? Session finished. So when this session finishes, which takes 1 hour, you're going to lose any state that you were in the console. This is normal. Let's get used to it. Scroll down. Hey, there you go. You're starting to see positive invocations. So let's see here. Do we get more? We should get more. Come on, show me more. Did we switch to another thing? AAA? No, that's the latest one. Give me more stuff. Come on, you can do it. Lambda. Another way to clean the logs is to, for example, delete this. If you delete this, what they call the log streams, you're going to get a new set every time you delete one. This way it's much easier to debug stuff, because then you get a new fresh set of logs if you don't care about the old ones. But why are we not getting more of them? We need more. Let's delete this, guys, because there is a, I think it's a big mess now. Boom, boom, boom. Refresh. Come on. Are we in the right place? Yes, it's MTP. Okay, there you go. New invocation worked. What is this one? This also worked. And this worked. And this one worked. This one didn't work. These are the old ones. .json, like I think we just got that one when I deleted those few seconds. It tried to read something that doesn't exist. But okay, so this is how it works. So you just dump a JSON file with the right data in, and the file is going to be sent out. And yeah, I hope this gives you a idea what it takes to work with serverless, what it takes to work with CloudFormation. I know that CloudFormation doesn't sound super awesome to work with those weird errors, the documentation that doesn't match the console. But once you get a good you know what I mean, then it's super useful because you're not relying on the console that can change. If you are trying to, figure out something, when you have so many different options here, sometimes it's much faster to do it in CloudFormation file. Not to mention with the CloudFormation file, you get redeployment very easily. Once you've done your CloudFormation file, it is set in stone, right? So a month from now, you can redeploy it and it's going to work. A year from now, you can redeploy it and it's going to work, unless, for example, in the Lambda function, they're going to change the version of whatever language that you're using. Then you're going to get an error message that says this version is not supported anymore. At least that error is clear. And so yeah, so it's on the long run, a CloudFormation file is truly very useful and worth the investment. And yeah, and in the future, I'm going to do more videos with these small projects to give you an idea how to work with this stuff. And of course, I'm going to also polish this CloudFormation file, also add a little bit more code to handle those type of errors that we saw, to make sure that everything is more polished. But this is a nice general idea of what it takes to make a small project like this. So thank you for watching, and until next time, have a nice time.